Welcome everyone this afternoon. We are the University Career Center, and this is our new series, Working While. Today is Working While Female. We have a couple wonderful guests with us who are our panelists. Sadly, we had one panelist who has had a death in the family, and she will not be able to join us today. Tamisha Boulware from Enterprise Holdings is on her way to Ohio, and so she sends her regrets, and we, of course, have sent our condolences. So, but with us, we do have Kristen Bosch with the University of Louisville School of Nursing, and Joan Chimaluski, who is with UPS. Some of you may have heard of UPS. And I'm going to give each of them a moment to introduce themselves, tell us what they do in their respective roles, and maybe just a minute or two on how you got to that point.
Okay. Kristen, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Joan. Okay, so I am Kristen Bosch. I am an assistant professor at the University of Louisville School of Nursing. I also am a dual certified family nurse practitioner and women's health nurse practitioner. And I practice actually with Norton Healthcare. And I do that as needed right now, as my faculty role at U of L kind of takes up most of my time. So I do that probably about 6 to 10 hours a week, maybe. Back in March when COVID was going on, I was doing that way more. So juggling many more things, but that is telehealth. So it's really nice that I'm able to see patients. I'm able to log on from home. It makes it really nice with young children at home. I could put them to bed and work for a couple of hours there. I started my journey actually. So I am a double grad from U of L. I was a graduate from their Bachelor's of Science in Nursing in 2010 and started as a registered nurse working some med-surg telemetry, doing and then also switching gears to moms and babies, which is where I found my passion on the postpartum unit and newborn nursery, taking care of those families directly after birth and for the following days, and really helping kind of get them situated in that new role of parenthood or new role of having multiple children and juggling all of the things there. So I found my passion with women's health and decided to go back to U of L and graduated there in 2014 with a Master's of Science in Nursing with a dual specialty in family and women's health nurse practitioner, sat for double boards, which was the scariest thing in my life. And then I started working actually as a women's health nurse practitioner in December of 2014, directly after graduating. And that was very challenging. I was there for about a year, but I was their first and their only nurse practitioner in a practice full of 12 OBGYNs. So that was a very large practice, a new role, and I was working many hours, 60 a week, and pregnant with my first child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, decided after I had her, I went back for a little while, and then I decided, I really need something with a little more flexibility. And that's where I landed my role with Norton Healthcare. I was the first nurse practitioner to kind of help my boss launch their telehealth program. And then from there, I decided, I need a little more flexibility than that, because that was a 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. role. And after having my second child, it was really hard for me to put all of that responsibility on my husband to do dinner, bedtime, bath every single day of the week. So I actually landed a job with the University of Louisville, full-time faculty there, teaching in their maternal newborn program. So I've been there full-time since 2018. I've never looked back. I love what I do. I'm excited to go to work every day. I love working with students of all ages. I teach many classes across different programs in the master's and the bachelor's program. And it's exciting to finally have a place where I can feel like I can do it all. I can't do it all perfect all the time, but I can do it. It doesn't always look pretty. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here. Kristen actually works with a good friend of mine at the School of Nursing, Diane Riff, and Diane highly recommended Kristen to join us, said she's enthusiastic and loves her job and has a lot of information to share. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And we also have Joan Chimaluski, who is somebody I also know personally from UPS, and She's going to share a little bit about her position and how she got there.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Laura. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here today. My name is Joan Chimaluski. I work at UPS. I've been here quite a long time, 27 years now. So I know in today's job world, that's a little unique. I think people like me who have stayed at the one company for their entire career are not quite as common as it may have been in the past. But I feel like I've been very fortunate here. Because I've had about 12 different jobs over that whole time. So because UPS is a global corporation, I've had a chance to do a large number of things. Primarily, I spent most of my time in what we call network planning, designing our aircraft network, what routes we need to fly, how much capacity do we need to move parcels between different locations, things of that nature. I did that a little bit for our ground side as well, planning how big some of our sorting facilities need to be. I've been in some technology. I was in advanced technology group for a couple of years, doing some really interesting R&D work. Let's see what else. I started as a customer service representative, just answering the 800 number, working part-time. So yeah, I really had a chance to grow and develop here, and have a most recent role. Started in February. I am the director of aircraft maintenance planning and industrial engineering for the UPS airline. So happy to be here and answer questions and share any kind of information that might be helpful.
Well, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. I know you're very busy, both of you, obviously, and so we appreciate you taking the time to be here and answer some questions from our students. I'm going to give Donna Lee, who is our Associate Director for Employer Engagement, just a second to talk about Enterprise Holdings, because Tamisha couldn't be here. But Donna, just wanted to give you a line or two about the types of positions that they hire for.
Yes, thank you, Laura. I'm Donna Lee, the Associate Director for Employer Engagement. And with an organization like Enterprise Holdings, they are one of the few employers that recruit on a college campus, and they recruit for all majors. They have a phenomenal management trainee program that will take you from day one and help you build and learn your craft in your career within the Enterprise family. And I know a lot of students may think, oh, I didn't go to college to rent cars for a living, but you'll find out that it's a whole lot more than just renting cars. And with their, I guess, trajectory for you to grow your career, they really do, honestly, when they say it, you can believe it, they do promote from within. So you can start off your career, renting cars at the airport and move your way up the food chain, so to speak. So we have had the privilege of working with Enterprise for the 3 years that I've been here at this career center, and it is a phenomenal place to work, and they work hard and they play hard, and they definitely reward you for the work and time that you put in to that organization. I'll turn it back over to you, Laura.
Great, thank you so much. And first of all, let me also say thank you to Valerie Casey and Jamaica Jones over in the Women's Center for partnering with us on this. And Jamaica actually sent me some questions. She had a meeting with some STEM students, I believe it was earlier this week. And so I'm going to start off, maybe get everybody warmed up with a couple of questions that she has sent to me that those students had. And then we'll start seeing if any of our students that are joining us today, if you guys have any questions, we're happy to take those as well. So let's start off with, do you have a mentor? And if so, how did having a mentor help you in your journey?
I can start on that one. Yes, I have many mentors still today, even where I am in my career, and as well as I mentor many other young women, and it has been indispensable to my success. I think early on in my career, I didn't really understand that, but there were women that worked with me that kind of took me under my wing and supported me. And it wasn't until, I got a little bit older and learned a little bit more about the workplace, just how important that really was. Just having someone to bounce ideas off of, share experiences, to learn from, to network. It's just been extremely important. I've had most of my mentors have been informal, men and women, but I have participated in some leadership development programs where I was assigned a specific mentor at the company. And those also serve me well. A different purpose, a little more professional based than personal based, but both very, very important.
Great, thank you. How about you, Miss Kristen?
Yeah, so I don't think that I really could have made it to where I am without mentors. And like Joan, I have some informal and formal mentors. And I love hearing her story too. I started out as a PCA in the hospital, and that's where I met my first mentor actually. And a PCA is a patient care associate, so it's a nurse's aide. So I started out there and met my first mentor, who was actually the manager of the labor and delivery unit at the time was called Norton Suburban Hospital, now St. Matthews. And Ellie Humphrey, my mentor there, had really helped me throughout my schooling process, getting my first job, kind of showing me the ropes and teaching me the culture of nursing, things that you really don't get in nursing school, you know, different committees to become a part of, different roles to take as far as leadership when I first started, ways to really network myself, to be able to meet people, to help my chances of getting into specific roles. I think that everybody really sells their self when it comes to a job, but I do think that having those people, those mentors, will help kind of navigate that process, introduce you to people. And so that was my first mentor. And then most recently at U of L, we are actually paired up. So when I started in 2018, I was paired with a senior faculty member. And that person serves as my professional formal mentor. We meet on a monthly basis. We actually teach a course together where she's a course coordinator and I co-teach with her. So she has really helped me learn the role of teaching. And so I think that's one of my most common things that I'm telling students is when you start, or even now while you're still in school, find somebody that you can relate to or connect with, or, you know, look at and say, you know, I would really like to do that type of work, or I really like that characteristic about that working woman, and just start talking. And I could not say enough about my mentors that I have. And so I have the two of them still. And I also have many others that I look up to, not only personally, but professionally.
So that's a U of L program that's in place, and it continues on as you continue with your professional career. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So Joan, you mentioned that you had some that were formal and some that were not formal. The ones that are formal, are those part of the UPS program, or is it just something that you established for yourself?
No, it was part of a leadership development program that UPS put on. And so I was matched with several executive leaders in the company just to kind of learn more about their area, to get tips. You said networking, rules of the road, so to speak.
I'm sorry if I missed that earlier. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Just kind of help me think about my UPS specifically, my career here.
Great. Okay, do we have any questions directly from our students here? And if not, I've got some that we, like I said, had received earlier. Does anybody have anything? And you're free to type it into the chat box, or if you just want to turn your mic on and ask, you're free to do that.
Nothing's come into the chat yet.
Okay. So let's, another one of the questions that came in from Jamaica's group is, how can the community be more inclusive? And I guess that could be your work community, or it could be just the community in general. And let's frame that in terms of, you know, obviously our topic is females in the workplace. So let's frame that in terms of females, and how people can be more supportive of us becoming more powerful in our roles, moving up the chain.
I think I can speak from, big corporate America perspective. I know at our company, we do have a chief diversity and inclusion officer. And so our company from the corporate level is focused on inclusivity and building up everyone, be it racial, gender differences. We specifically have groups, business resource groups designed for different like-minded folks, one of which is a women's BRG. And so I think having that forum and that opportunity is one way that's in place in many companies and organizations. In fact, I serve on the board of a group called Women Influencing Louisville, which is a consortium of companies and organizations around the community that have these women's resource groups. U of L is actually part of that, and so they put on different seminars and sessions, opportunities for development. And one of the key things that we've been focusing on lately is finding other allies in the community. And we hear that frequently with the LGBTQ community, but they're also, having men that are allies for women, specifically in the business world, and those that are more predominantly populated by males, like in engineering that I'm in, UPS. So working with men to help bring women along, I think we're starting to see more and more of those efforts.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that was really good, Joan. I think I'd like to take just a little bit of a different approach, maybe, in that Joan's coming from corporate America and I'm coming from healthcare, predominantly a female-driven field. Nursing is 95% female. Even with our push to gain more males into our profession, it still is predominantly and has been historically based or female, high female presence. So I think that it's just a little bit different for me speaking from a healthcare standpoint, but I will say from a community standpoint, I think that there are a number of things that could take place. And I think that a lot of that starts with early education in middle school and high school programs, speaking to women about the importance of empowering them and empowerment for women. I feel as though I grew up in a culture where I was not really empowered by my community, maybe a little bit from my school system, but I think really starting early is going to be key for us in our community of Louisville. And U of L School of Nursing actually does something really cool where we do work with several of the high schools in the city, where we go a couple times a semester or quarter and speak to high school students about what it's like to be a nurse, what it's like to try to get into nursing school, what it may be like juggling the curriculum and also trying to be a college student. So I think programs such as that would be very beneficial. And then I couldn't leave the meeting without also discussing from a community standpoint, supporting mothers. Obviously, as mothers, we have a lot of pressure. And since the pandemic last year, we have experienced it even more so. And not that every woman is going to be a mother, but most women statistically will be a mother in some way, whether that's with adoptive children, biological children, foster children, pets. I mean, the roles just are always the pressure is always put on the role of the mother. And I think the community could be maybe a little more supportive in that nature. Some things that I have thought specifically, U of L has a really, really wonderful childcare program. However, it's not near the health science center. It's not very conducive to our type of work as far as shifts go, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I just think in general, from a community standpoint, empowering women from a young age, and then also empowering and supporting mothers across, women and mothers across their lifespan. I think that would be, a way for us to kind of help that.
I agree 100% with all of that. And I even mentioned to Laura, when she had invited me to do this, I think even just this forum in and of itself is a big help because I did not have anything like this when I started my career. There was a career center where I graduated. It wasn't U of L, sorry.
That's okay.
But we didn't focus specifically on issues that might be unique to women and what's it like to enter the workforce. And it was very different, 27 years ago when I did. And yeah, this forum alone, I think is a really good step and very, very beneficial.
Well, thank you. That's good to hear. And we may be calling on you guys again. And so we hope to continue this. So we might get back with you again. And let me play devil's advocate just for a second, because Joan, you're in kind of a role where you mentioned is maybe male dominated, especially in the engineering field. And Kristen, you're in one where it's more female dominated. So Kristen, I guess my question to you would be, of the male nurses that you have worked with, have you seen them rise to higher positions more than the females, or is this an area where you feel like maybe women, have really got it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Actually, I was kind of reflecting over this the past week, and it's different. So in nursing alone, nursing is kind of its own little entity of healthcare. We have a specific culture. We are trained differently. We're trained to take care of patients based on an art and a science. Bedside manner is a really big deal for nurses. We join the field because we like to care for people. We want to be with people. We want to take care of them. We are fixers. And so I feel like in the realm of nursing in general, yes, there are male nurses and there are more male nurses that are coming into the workplace. But when I look at all of the leadership roles in nursing, they are still female. When I look at the leadership roles in academia in nursing, they are all female. In fact, we just had our first male join as a director of a program 2 weeks ago. And it's just, it's a different vibe. But tying nursing into healthcare in general, and you look at the very top leadership teams, the CEO, the CFO, the vice president of marketing, of systems, I would say a lot of them are male, and a lot of them are physicians.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Joan, you actually mentioned that there's a lot of support for women and a lot of support in the mentoring area. So did you want to say anything else about how females are making headway, particularly in STEM fields in UPS?
Sure. I'll say, it's not perfect, right? We are making headway, and we are recruiting, and we have many more female engineers and women in leadership positions than we did in the past. But yeah, there's still room for more of us, right? Yep. And we have quite a few people who, frankly, still have some old school views of the world. And so we learn how to educate them and work with them. But then we also have just this, wonderful group of people who are coming up through the ranks that, are, for them, it's a no-brainer. Like, yeah, why aren't there more women around? So right, that's nice. And then I'm not sure if you're aware, but last year, mid-year, we had a change in our chief executive officer role, and we are now led by a woman, Carol Tomei. And her presence has really made a difference. She has a very different style than her predecessor, but it's been very inspiring for a lot of women, men as well, but definitely for the women to see her at the, the head of our company. We have 500,000 people around the world. UPS is a huge corporation. We have a big presence here, but, we're all over the world. So having her at the helm has been really, really inspiring. I think it's going to help, honestly.
Great. Thank you. Okay, we've got a couple of questions from students. One is, did you have any leadership roles or participate in any organizations on campus or in the community that helped shape your career path?
Not directly for me. Not as directly related to my field, but I did serve on several boards, and even just leading my son's Cub Scout troop. I mean, just all these different ways of interacting with people and learning about people, learning about myself. Those have served me in my career. The skills that I learned managing, that group of scouts and their parents has, taught me a lot, and it's helped me in my career. And like I said, I'm on this board at will, and so working with other women and other corporations, opens your eyes to different ways of doing things. So I do believe that any kind of involvement, engagement can serve you well, in your career.
I agree with you 100%, Joan. And I think, again, kind of starting early too, if you can. So while you all are students, I think it's extremely beneficial. I started college in 2006, and I actually ended up joining a sorority. I was not from here. I moved here knowing not a single person. And so I felt the need to really find friends, find people, find women, that I could relate to. And that was one of the easier ways for me to do so. And I took a leadership role in that sorority early on as the treasurer in my second year. And that taught me a lot of really important things, even just responsibility, showing up, accountability. Not that role had a lot of direct impact on major decisions and policies and protocols. I do feel like just starting that, at 19 years old was something that taught me a lot about showing up for myself and showing up for others. And then throughout the nursing program, I've always been a person that likes to overcommit and overwork and overplan and check off things from a to-do list. So I actually ended up joining a couple of different organizations in the upper division of nursing school. So I was on the nursing student council, and I served as a student representative there. And then I also joined a program called the Kentucky Association of Nursing Students, and I was on the state board during my junior and senior year of college as the second vice president, and then the breakthrough to nursing director. And so with those types of roles, I really learned a lot about my profession, things that I would not have experienced or learned until much later in my trajectory of my career. But that taking the extra step, that going the extra mile, that desire to learn and really soak up as much knowledge and experience as I could, I think has definitely set the foundation for the type of working woman that I am, and that I continue to learn about and desire to be. So I think getting involved in anything early on, it doesn't have to be a major organization or a sorority. It could be a little community service, getting involved with your church, whatever it may be. But I think that it is always beneficial as well.
Great, thank you. So let's see. I apologize, I've got a big list of questions here.
We do have a question in the chat from a student.
Okay.
So Trinity asks, which programs offer mentors to students? And Mallory addressed the question in the chat, but I didn't know if y'all had any more advice on that, or if Trinity, you could elaborate on what exactly you mean by that question.
Maddie, I know at the School of Nursing, we do have a pretty strong mentorship. So in the lower division of the nursing program, which is your first 2 years on campus, where you're kind of getting all of your general education requirements, your math, your science, your micro, your art history, all those things, when you're actually in the lower division, we have not only the advisors and faculty come and kind of help mentor, but we also have students that will come just as this and be panelists for those lower division nursing courses, sit in and say, ask me all the questions, pick my brain about how upper division is, how hard is it, how many exams do you have, do you ever sleep, what are clinicals like? And just that tiny bit of mentorship there on the lower division is extremely beneficial. And then actually, we have started the learning communities within the School of Nursing, where pretty much the lower division students will stay in these pods and go through not only the lower division, but then upper division as well. And I am not actively involved in that. I would like to be, but my plate is over full right now. But I do know that they will have faculty members. They'll have different things like brunches or guest speakers, and they invite faculty to that. And then they also invite the living learning community of the nursing students to things like our alumni events, like the Belle of Louisville cruise that we'll be having, hopefully, if COVID allows, here in the next couple of months. So I do think that overall the nursing program does have a pretty strong mentoring program for students.
Thanks, Kristen.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I guess that's probably doesn't apply so much. We know that UPS does have some mentoring programs, so, but I'm not sure that if Trinity has any more clarification on some of the information she's looking for, we'd be happy to ask that question. But one of the questions that has come in is, what would be the biggest challenge for the next generation of women, and how can we be a strong role model for them?
I can go first, Joan, because I've actually thought about this, if that's okay with you.
Yes, please.
I think one of the biggest challenges that women behind me face, so I'm 33 years old, so I'm kind of there, like, at the beginning of my career, and thinking about these students, these nurses, these nurse practitioners, these anything, engineers, whatever they are. I think one of the biggest things that we face is confidence. Like we have to be confident and assertive, and we have to be empowered, and we have to feel like we can lead. And I just see that even in myself, in students that I teach, in my sister-in-law who's a little bit younger than me, I just feel like when we look at ourselves compared to males, the one of the characteristics that I feel like we lack overall as a generality is confidence and assertiveness. And I feel like if we did have that confidence and the assertiveness, especially in nursing, we would be able to do so many more things. We could lead more committees. We could change more policy. We could be involved at a national and global level. So I think that there's a lot of ways that we can work on that. But again, I know that I spoke of this earlier, starting at a young age and making little girls, making 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, making them feel empowered, not shutting them down, not making them feel like their decisions are too big or their dreams are too large, and continuing that through the lifespan of a woman. I don't think that there's ever a woman that's too young or too old that wouldn't benefit from being maybe a little more confident or a little more assertive in the workplace.
Yeah, no, that is very insightful, and I agree with you. I heard a statistic once, I don't remember it exactly, but it was roughly something like they did some surveys, and when people are considering a job or a promotion, if women have about 95% of the qualifications, then they'll feel confident enough to apply. Men, if they have about, it was like 60. I mean, it was like just over half. And so that really stuck with me. I learned that a little while back, and I thought, okay, so you have to be willing to take risks and put yourself out there, I think. Mm-hmm. And yeah, no one is perfect. No one knows everything. No one is, so yeah, being able to take risks and assert yourself and be willing to learn, and I think would serve all of us well. Yeah.
Along those lines, interestingly, my husband he was an IT guy, and he used to do a lot of hiring in his department. And so when the conversation about the salary gaps between men and women would come up, one of his good points was that women don't have the confidence to ask for more money. And he said, if I had a male candidate and a female candidate with the same qualifications, if I offered $50,000 to the man, he would say, no, I need 60. And if I offered it to the woman, she would say, okay, great. So
True.
I think you're right on with the confidence and the strength to believe in ourselves. So I would completely agree with that. And so we have over in the chat, Jamaica said, mansplaining, unfortunately, is a common experience women can face. How have you handled this in the workplace? Thanks, Jamaica.
I'm giggling because I was talking about this the other day. Somebody sent me a meme about mansplaining and we were giggling about it. And the most overt example that I faced, there was a gentleman, we were on having coffee break. This was a couple years back, but before COVID, when people used to be able to, sit around and speak together at work. Somehow the topic turned to somebody was having a baby or, and he was trying to, I made a remark. I have 2 sons and he tried to correct me. And I just flat out looked at him and I was like, dude, you've never had a baby. You don't know what you're talking about. And everyone giggled, but that was the most overt when a man was trying to, correct me on something about childbirth. It happens otherwise subtly. And I don't, it's a fine line, right? I think people are not aware of it. I think a lot of people are trying to be helpful. So when it happens to me, if I think that's what's happening, if it's just once, if it's somebody in passing, maybe I'll just let it go if it's not worth messing with. But if it's somebody that I'm working with or someone that I have a relationship with, and, I'll tell them, hey, when you did this, it came across as you were trying to, belittle me or explain something to me that, I'm very capable or I already knew or whatever. So it just depends. Like I said, I mean, it happens here and there. Luckily, in all honesty, I have not experienced it a lot in my career, but just from time to time.
Thank you. Kristen, has it come up with you? Does it? And yeah. I guess most of the males directly, if that you interact with directly, are going to be the male doctors.
Yes, and so as a nurse, I did not encounter this as much. I felt like even my male colleagues, we were just all on the same level. We all had the same goal in mind, to take the best care of the patient and make it the best experience when these patients are incredibly vulnerable and at some of the lowest points in their life. And I never experienced that. And then in 2015, when I was 37 weeks pregnant with my first child, I was actually pulled into a physician's office as a new nurse practitioner who was also providing healthcare to patients by diagnosing and treating and referring patients very similarly to he. The one thing that I really didn't do that he did was deliver babies and perform surgeries. But in the office setting, our roles were very similar. And I can think of one kind of overt example that really has stuck with me since then. And he pulled me into the office and was telling me about the importance of, when I have my child and when I come back from maternity leave, that I'm going to be gone for a while, and you're a new graduate, you're going to forget a lot of things, and you just can't be a Barbie doll in a white coat walking around. And so that was not just mansplaining, that was a form of harassment. And to tell you the truth, at that time, I was 25 years old, a brand new graduate, full-term pregnant, and I said nothing to him. I literally just sat in silence. I let him tell me all of the things. I said nothing to him. I left his office and I went to my own and I cried. I was very emotional, went home, told my husband, can you believe this? This is what I'm working with on a daily basis. And just the egos that you have to deal with, especially in a field where the physician side of things is predominantly male. And some of the egos that I've had to deal with, it's never really mattered the level of knowledge or the level of care that we can provide to patients. It's, I'm male and I'm a doctor, and you're a female and you're a nurse practitioner, know your role. And I think early on, I just listened and I internalized a lot of that, and it knocked me down a couple of times. But I think as I've grown through my profession, I have really learned this ability to be assertive, this ability to stick up for myself, this ability to prove myself back to them that, you know, that's not acceptable. And just as Joan mentioned, I love the therapeutic communication that goes on that I feel like we as women are actually better at than males. And so sometimes you'll pull out some of those therapeutic communication techniques like, well, I just heard you say this, and I really need you to clarify what you meant by that. You know, they're kind of just taken aback, like, whoa, she's gonna give me a little pushback. And so I have experienced that actually. And I know many of my female nursing colleagues have as well, especially my colleagues and friends that are nurse practitioners. We unfortunately hear it too often, kind of.
And this, I think, is really interesting, and it ties back to how we started the whole conversation. These are the kind of things that having a mentor makes the mentorship and the relationship so important, because you're right, with age comes confidence, credentials, titles that you can use, you know, to help yourself. When you're first starting out, you might not have all that. But having other people that you can rely on and a network of women or, you know, other people or can be very helpful. And I'll just say this, if anyone ever says anything like that to you, and you know this now, Kristen, I'm sure, you need to talk to your HR department, because that is not acceptable.
Right.
And it's completely normal to be stunned into silence. It's happened to me. That's okay. But yeah, you learn
from that, right?
Yes.
You learn from those little things, and then you teach other women. Then you teach other young professionals that exactly your mentor. I think I even remember going to my older mentor who had been a nurse practitioner for a while, telling her that same story. And she said the same thing. Go to your manager and then go directly to human resources. It's not appropriate. Right. And I just felt, I didn't feel empowered at the time to do that. But yeah, I agree.
I'm just stunned by some of the things that you're sharing and that we hear. So let's do one last question. And this actually sort of leads into our wrap up, is where we're just going to give you a few minutes to give any advice or a piece of advice. But this is also, one of the students has asked, what is one piece of advice you wish you had heard when you were about to graduate? Or I guess it would be appropriate, or what piece of advice do you wish you, or could you impart with folks in the work world as well? But since most of our students we're talking about graduation, I think that's where this is coming from.
Yes. And okay, I would say just be yourself, be your authentic self. And that really, that's the most important thing. If you're true to yourself and you know what's right and wrong, and you know, you follow your own path, you're going to find success. I mean, yeah, you got to play some games. You have to learn the ropes. You get it. Every company that you may work for is a little bit different, and there's politics involved, but that all comes with time. But at the end of the day, I think being true to yourself is the most important.
Thank you.
I love that, Joan. I too would say that to every graduating person as well. And then I also think that my biggest advice would be continue to learn, continue to grow, continue to reflect on yourself professionally and personally. And I, especially in healthcare, and I'm sure Joan with your profession as well, you cannot be stagnant. You have to continue that learning process, and there's always going to be things changing. And I joke with all of my friends, family, patients about COVID, because in the beginning we knew very little, and as we have grown over the year, we have learned more and more and more and more. And you wouldn't know that from a healthcare professional or provider standpoint if you did not have that desire to learn. You could easily just say, You know, yes, COVID-19 is here. I'm not going to read all the newest evidence. I'm not going to look at the raw statistics. I'm not going to look at the qualitative and the long hauler effects. But that's the way that we become better women, better providers, better working women. And that lifelong learning, I think, is so powerful for us. I think we face so many barriers in the workplace, and knowledge is power. And if you continue to desire to learn, you will, you know, and I think that that's something that I would tell everybody, that just because you're graduating right now, totally take a break, take your summer off, try to travel or go to the beach if COVID allows, but don't give up, don't stop, just keep going. And that doesn't have to be a formal education. Not everybody needs a PhD, but that means picking up the newspaper or reading your professional journals or whatever that may mean to you in your particular career. Never, ever stop learning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you both for that great advice. We do have a couple questions in the chat if time allows.
Yep, let's go for it. Let's see if we can get them in. I know, let's see, we're at 2:50, so we'll see if we can do these, run through them quickly. The first one is, does your employer have gender and or family friendly policies?
I think UPS is maybe average or slightly better than average as far as that goes. We do not offer paternal leave, but being a large corporation, people are eligible for family medical leave for women for pregnancy. We do have 6 to 8 weeks paid, you know, which is better than a lot of people. I mean, I think so. I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but I mean, the health benefits and whatnot in general are excellent, you know, being a large corporation, but family specific, I would say middle of the road.
And I would say for U of L and both Norton Healthcare, I would say that they are probably a little above middle ground. I know that both institutions, both corporations have diversity policy and planning committees. I know that both of them have a really big desire to learn more about LGBTQ populations and some populations that we know have healthcare disparities. I feel very comfortable working for both organizations, knowing that they are very supportive of all human beings, no matter their color, no matter their gender. And I think that even if they may not be the top right now or perfect at everything that we do, I know U of L doesn't have like a paternal plan. Norton just released a paternal leave, but I do think that their desire to improve is there, and I think that that's important when you're choosing a workplace.
Good, that's great to hear. Okay, the next, actually we've got two that are really related to one another, and I'll just kind of condense it into what the second one says. In being assertive and confident in the workplace, how would it be best to deal with being called bossy or less unsavory names in regard with that? Going to HR is wonderful, but how do we, or how have you done things to help that in the workplace culture?
I think one of the other things, and I'll tie it back, another piece of advice I would give, besides being true to yourself, is build relationships with people. Okay. It will have personal dividends and professional dividends. And once you build a relationship with someone, you can have these frank conversations and you can tell them, no, I'm not bossy. I'm assertive. I'm a leader. I'm making decisions. You know, you can't say that to women. It's not appropriate. When you can address these things, you know, as they happen, the better you know people and the more you have a relationship with people. And regardless, there's still going to be people who say that, but I don't care. I just embrace it.
I love that, Joan, embracing it, embracing your strong will and your leadership skills and your assertive decision making. I think it's amazing. And being called bossy or mean back when I was an undergrad, or even as a grad student, or as a brand new nurse practitioner, I probably would have internalized a lot of that. I probably would have felt bad for myself. And yes, I am kind of being mean and bossy, but the more that I am learning about myself personally and professionally, the more that I'm okay with some people labeling me, because no matter what, there are going to be people that label you in one way or another. And a lot of that, I laugh because my husband has taught me one of my most important life lessons. We've been together since I was 19, and he saw how soft-hearted I was and how I let things just really get to me personally, professionally. And he told me something many years ago that has really just stuck with me. And he said, you just need to have Teflon on your shoulders. All of that just needs to roll off, Kristen. And a lot of the stuff that they are calling you or labeling you, a lot of that is about them, not even necessarily about you. And so I think if you can flip it that way, being true to yourself, as Joan said, and being able to have those qualities, I think is a wonderful and beautiful thing for a woman. And I'm actually working on that now with my 6-year-old Kylie, who is very strong-willed and assertive and bossy. But I'm trying to embrace that. I'm trying to teach her that, yes, it's okay to be this way. It's okay to have these decisions, but this is the way that we really should deliver it,
Right.
Great. That's great. Well, ladies, I can't thank you enough. We're approaching the hour, and I appreciate all of your advice. I appreciate you being here, taking the time. I know you're both incredibly busy. All of our attendees, I know you guys have very tight schedules too, so we really appreciate you being with us. We had a suggestion that for our attendees that maybe you could put something in the chat, or you can email Laura Mercer at louisville.edu with any skills that maybe you would want to help navigate the working world, or getting into the working world, that sort of thing, because we do hope to continue this conversation. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about. Some of that is good, some of it maybe not so good. But I'm glad that we've all come together to discuss it. And again, we appreciate your contribution so much, both your questions and your knowledge, ladies. Thank you again, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks for inviting me, Laura. And I'm on LinkedIn. If anybody ever has any questions or wants to connect, please feel free to reach out.
And I'm not on LinkedIn, Joan. I need to join LinkedIn, I think, but I'm not on there. But I do have a Louisville email address. So if anybody has any questions for me or navigating nursing or healthcare, I'm more than happy to help in that way too. And Laura, thank you too for inviting me. And Joan, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, you too.
Nice to have everybody. Thanks again.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend, everyone.